Everybody wants to know, what indicators do I use? What time frames do I trade on? Today we're going to break down every single chart that I have pulled up on my screens. I've got charts over there. I got charts in front of me. I've got charts over there. We got charts everywhere. I'm going to give away all my secrets right here in this video, so make sure you guys stay tuned. What's going on, guys? It's funny because I would say the most popular question that I get on YouTube is, number one, what time frame? And then number two, what indicators do I use? What indicator is the best? Everybody always wants to know which indicator is the best. And I wish I had an answer. I wish I could be like, well, listen, guys, there is only one indicator that you need and only one indicator that is important to use. At the end of the day, there's a million different indicators. There's a million different algorithms. You can add lines, you can add charts and RSIs, and there's a million different things that you can do. Now that I've been trading since 2017, 2016, the more that I've learned, the longer that I've traded, I've basically gotten rid of a lot of the indicators, and I've tried to make it very simple. I learned kind of the hard way trading the 1 minute chart, and I kind of learned, oh, maybe there's too many indicators. There's too much noise on the chart, right? When there's too much noise on the chart, when you have 5 different lines, different EMAs, and you got the VWAP, and you got the RSI, and you got the MACD, you got all these different indicators on the chart. Sometimes there's just too much noise. You got to make it clean. You got to keep it simple. And that's one of my philosophies when it comes to day trading. Keep it simple, my friends. All right, so the first chart that I have pulled up here, I actually have it kind of over here on the right on the computer, is I have the QQQ, which is the overall NASDAQ ETF. And what I have on here right now is pretty simple. I have the volume, and then I've got the Ripster EMA clouds. It'll say Ripster EMA clouds. If you want to add that to your chart, you can do that just by Ripster EMA clouds when you search on TradingView. And then I've also got the VWAP here. So I've got the VWAP and I've got the Ripster EMA clouds. And right now you can see basically kind of where we're at. What I do like about this VWAP that I'm using is that it allows me to kind of give it like a standard deviation, if that makes sense. You see these little dotted lines? That's kind of giving me like an overall up and down away from the VWAP in terms of how far are we from the VWAP? Is that still kind of in this envelope of the VWAP area? And you can see it's interesting because here we pushed up and we got stuck. Where at those dotted, that little dotted line there, kind of the same thing, breaking to the downside, pushing back up, turning that little dotted line into support. I've also got the RSI down here in the bottom. I'm kind of messing around with the RSI right now. I've only got it on this one chart. I don't really have it on anywhere else, but we have it on this one chart just so I can kind of see okay, maybe there's something going on there. I'm not a huge fan of RSI. A lot of people love RSI, but I personally just have never really thought that it was very readable in the sense of okay, I see that it's oversold, I see that it's overbought, but a lot of times it's just not a very clear signal of okay, right now we're right in the middle here on the RSI. Does that mean I want to go long? Does it mean I go short? I think for the RSI, it only really works in terms of giving you entries and exits based on the extreme. When we're oversold to the extreme or we're underbought to the, overbought to the extreme, that's kind of when it works. But when you're just kind of sitting here, this morning when we sold off, we were down to the 20s on the RSI. That was kind of an indicator, okay, this is a good time. Maybe, it's going to reverse at this point when we filled the gap there on the SPY. So kind of thinking about that, always kind of okay, give me an idea of where we are in terms of are we oversold or are we overbought? But in general, this is the 3 minute chart. I love the 3 minute chart over the 1 minute chart. And I don't, and then obviously a lot of people like the 5 minute chart. I think the 3 minute chart is right in the middle between, obviously the 1 minute chart and the 5 minute chart, giving you kind of the faster price action, but also a little bit slower, a little bit cleaner with the 3 minute candles compared to the 1 minute candles. A little bit less fakey or fake outs and things like that. So definitely liking the 3 minute chart, and that's always kind of what I have pulled up. And then normally, I have a 3 minute and the 15 minute chart kind of pulled up. Hey, if you guys enjoy these videos, you want to learn more about trading and all that fun stuff, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Also, let me know down in the comments, what indicators do you guys use and what's your favorite time frame for entering and exiting trades? And then I've also got the SPY chart. This is the 15 minute chart on the SPY that I've got pulled up. Super clean and simple. Again, just kind of looking for those gaps in the charts. I made a video talking about the gap here. If you guys want to check it out, I'll put a card up below. You guys can check it out. But kind of that's what I'm looking at in terms of the SPY on the 15-minute chart, looking for those gaps and things like that. in the chart. So it allows me, by looking at the bigger time frames, the hourly chart, maybe the daily chart, it allows me to get an overall idea like where we are in terms of support, resistance. So kind of always, okay, look right now, like where we're at, we're pulling back here, looking at the daily chart. So that's something to think about. Always think about different time frames, bigger time frames, when you're looking for the idea of like, what is the overall trend? What are we doing? Is the market sitting at a resistance? Is the market sitting at support? I like to kind of focus, bigger time frames for those ideas. And today, like, it was a really good example of that. We filled the gap there on the chart, and we had this huge move at open because of that gap fill. And then as soon as the gap got filled, we had a huge push back up. So you need to understand that you got to kind of see the bigger picture as much as you want to kind of be focused on the smaller time frames as well. You really need to be looking at the bigger time frames. So every day, I'm kind of always looking at the daily and then the hourly 15-minute chart for the kind of bigger picture of where we are in terms of structure. So that's kind of what I have going on with those charts over there. And then I have my Iron Beam platform pulled up here. The first chart you're going to see on here is the 3-minute chart. 3-minute candlesticks, nothing too crazy. For my indicator, I'm using the EMA, a 13 EMA. You could use the 9 EMA here, but I like the 13 just because I feel like it's a little bit, a little bit more, consistent, giving me a little bit more kind of focus. Like when I go to the 9 EMA, that EMA obviously gets a little bit closer. It's not going to be as wide as a gap in the price action. That's kind of why I like the 13. Again, it's all kind of personal preference. This is just kind of what I like, what I'm been using or what I see value in. 13 is kind of good, I think, in between kind of that 9 EMA and like that 21 EMA in that middle there. Maybe I could go to like 15 EMA, but I'm going to stick with 13 for here for this 3-minute chart, and it kind of gives me kind of what I want to see there in terms of that. And then I've got another chart pulled up. This is the 15-minute chart. And then I've got another chart pulled up here as well. And then I've got another chart. And then I've got another chart pulled up here. This is the 15-minute chart, looking pretty funky right now with this price action this morning with that sell-off, the pop back up, and then just kind of chopping around here on the 15-minute chart. For this chart, only thing I have on there, again, is an EMA. And what is that EMA? The EMA is the 13, but this should actually be 21. I think that should be 21 for the 15 minutes. So let's change that. So now it'll be 21 on the indicator. I'm not sure why it was 13. Normally it's always 21 for my 15-minute chart. So for the 15-minute chart, I'm using a 21 EMA. And then on the 3-minute chart, I'm using a 13 EMA. So, maybe I could go a little bit lower. Maybe the 9 EMA is the better option for that 3-minute chart. I'm kind of always kind of going back and forth between 9 minutes and between the 9 and the 3 and between the 9 and the 13 EMA on those smaller time frames, kind of seeing like, okay, this is working a little bit better. And that's the great thing about it, right? Like you got to figure out like what works best for your trading style, what's working best for your overall ideas, things like that. So then I have a couple other charts pulled up here on my other screen. Like this is one that I always have pulled up. This is the SPY chart. I always keep this like in focus, the 15-minute chart on the SPY. Again, today filling that gap there on the chart. The other chart that I have pulled up for the SPY is kind of like behind the Qs, but I like to keep this one up on the top. And same thing, very clean, very simple. Nothing on this chart actually. This is just purely price action, giving me an idea of where support, where resistance is. So again, the 15-minute chart, I would say 3-minute, 15-minute chart is kind of like my go-to when it comes to, overall kind of price action. And then we've got the VIX. So the VIX is the volatility index, and that's kind of giving us an idea, like when we get these sell-offs and things like that, like what's the overall volatility index for the market. And I like to always keep an eye on this because like this morning, we had this huge sell-off when we were rallying back. That's kind of giving me confirmation like, hey, look, the VIX is getting murdered. The VIX is sell, sell, sell. Well, maybe I should be getting long, right? Like I should be taking profit or, looking to jump in on a long when the VIX is getting murdered and getting slammed back down there. So the VIX I got pulled up there. That's a 3-minute chart on the VIX. I could probably do a 5-minute chart, but I think, or I could probably do a 15-minute chart, but the 3-minute chart's, I think, just fine there. So in general, most of my charts are pretty clean. The VWAP is very important for me. I think the VWAP is very important, should always kind of be, in mind. If you're going to be trading, always kind of looking at where the VWAP is, the volume weighted average price. And you guys can learn more about what the VWAP is, Google and check out YouTube, things like that. But in general, for me, I got the VWAP, I got the Ripster EMA clouds there on the chart, and then really just keeping it simple and clean on the Iron Beam app with the 13 EMA and then the 21 EMA. The 3-minute chart, the 15-minute chart, kind of my go-to charts. I I tried to stay away from the 1 minute chart, if that makes sense. Like I try to stay away from the 1 minute chart because like if you look here, because if you look at the price action like on the 1 minute chart, sometimes it's just super choppy, right? Like really choppy, hard to read. These are 1 minute candles. It's just kind of like all over the place. And then if I go and I switch to the 3 minute chart, let's just switch to the 3 minute chart here. You can see a little cleaner. It's kind of choppy overall this morning, the price action wise, but definitely a little cleaner for these overall kind of breakdown and breakups, giving me an idea like, okay, look, you know, earlier we saw on that 1 minute chart here, if we go, how this pushed up, you know, multiple candles, ding, 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 pushing up there to 1166.80. So I'm looking at this like, oh, you know, if you're looking at the 1 minute chart, you're thinking, oh, this is going to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. But then, you know, if you switch over the 3 minute chart, you wait for that candle to close, you can see, okay, bam, you know, we had that big wick on top of that candle. So maybe we get short there at the 660s and then we pull down the 620s. I don't know. I think personally the 3 minute chart is just a little cleaner, a little bit easier to read than the 1 minute chart for me. For me personally. Like again, you know, some guys I've seen them trade on like, you know, 10, 20, 30-second charts. So it really comes down to like what your overall strategy is in terms of your entering and exiting. I've talked about the 3 minute strategy that I have multiple times here on the channel, so I don't really think I need to get back into that. But for me, the 3 minute chart's kind of my go-to. So there it is, giving you guys an idea kind of what I'm using chart-wise, indicator-wise, time frame-wise. And hopefully this helps you guys get an idea, all right? You're like, now you know the secret and how I do it, what I'm doing. Obviously, this is not, you know, I can't guarantee that if you use these time frames, these indicators, that you're going to get rich trading. But, you know, the great thing about it is I think you really got to kind of figure out like what works best for you and just kind of put in that time, right? The more time that you're in front of the computer, the more time that you're in front of the charts, the better the opportunities to look for, you know, to look for those good trades, to look for patterns. We're looking to basically set up our charts so that we can see patterns, right? Like we want to see bull flags, we want to see bear flags, we want to see, you know, different rising wedges and support bounces, things like that. You know, with the VWAP, I'm always kind of watching like what's going on with the VWAP. Are we breaking through the VWAP? Are we below the VWAP? Are we bouncing off the VWAP? What's going on with the VWAP? So I'm always kind of keeping like a very kind of close eye on what is going on with the VWAP that day with the chart. So always keeping an eye on it. Always keep an eye. So there it is. The 3 minute chart, the 15 minute chart. Those are my time frames, and I told you guys my indicators. So if you guys have any questions, you want to learn more down below, let me know in the comments.